Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging
Donald Trump indicted for the third time, ex-president hit with 4 charges, including conspiracy to defraud the government and obstruct the electoral count for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Former President Donald Trump was hit with federal criminal charges over his attempts to cling to power after losing the 2020 election, with a grand jury indictment accusing him of spreading lies and sham investigations while stoking an angry mob on January 6. Trump is facing 4 counts including conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government and obstruct the electoral count for trying to overturn the 2020 election. The 45-page indictment says he was determined to remain in power despite having lost. Special counsel Jack Smith said in a televised public statement following the release of the indictment that the attack on the Capitol was fueled by lies made by Trump targeted at obstructing the bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. He pledged that his office will conduct a speedy trial. The former president, who is facing a maximum of 55 years in prison on the 4 counts, has been summoned to appear before U.S. District Judge Tanya S. Chutkan, an Obama appointee, on Thursday in Washington, D.C. There are also 6 unnamed alleged co-conspirators according to the indictment. Trump and his co-conspirators used knowingly false claims of election fraud to try to subvert the legitimate election results and change electoral votes to take down Joe Biden, according to the indictment. Trump is already facing 40 federal charges in Florida relating to his handling of sensitive government documents after leaving office, and is due to stand trial in New York next year accused of falsifying business documents after making a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels. In brief remarks outside an event in Philadelphia tonight, Attorney General Merrick Garland said that career employees of the Justice Department engaged in what has become the largest investigation in our history. In order to underline the department's commitment to accountability and independence, Mr. Smith and his team of experienced principled career agents and prosecutors have followed the facts and the law wherever they lead, Garland, who appointed Jack Smith as special counsel in November, told reporters. Any questions about this matter will have to be answered by the filings made. The criminal cases have plunged the country into uncharted legal and political territory as Trump accuses prosecutors of trying to derail his election campaign. The latest indictment comes amid a slew of investigations into the events of January 6, 2020, when Trump supporters clashed with police and overran the U.S. Capitol, and the way the then-president tried to overturn the result. A source familiar had confirmed to DailyMail.com that Trump was informed he was indicted Tuesday afternoon in the January 6 case. The Trump campaign put out a statement calling the indictment another witch hunt and comparing the U.S. to Nazi Germany. The January 6 indictment is nothing more than the latest corrupt chapter in the continued pathetic attempt by the Biden crime family and their weaponized Department of Justice to interfere with the 2024 presidential election, in which President Trump is the undisputed frontrunner and leading by substantial margins, read the statement. The lawlessness of these persecutions of President Trump and his supporters is reminiscent of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, the former Soviet Union, and other authoritarian, dictatorial regimes, the campaign statement continues. President Trump has always followed the law and the Constitution, with advice from many highly accomplished attorneys. These un-American witch hunts will fail and President Trump will be re-elected to the White House so he can save our country from the abuse, incompetence, and corruption that is running through the veins of our country at levels never seen before. The 6 uncharged co-conspirators appear to be familiar figures from the House January 6 probe. They've pushed officials in certain states to ignore the popular vote and in turn disenfranchised millions of voters. It points to their actions in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, all battleground states that Biden carried that tipped the election his way. It accuses them of using the power and authority of the DOJ to conduct sham election crime investigations. The first co-conspirator is said to be an attorney who was willing to spread knowingly false claims and pursue strategies to assist Trump's 2020 campaign. Co-conspirator 2 is an attorney who devised a strategy to leverage former Vice President Mike Pence's authority. Like the House probe, it identifies the effort to enlist then Vice President Pence to use his ceremonial role to fraudulently alter the election results. The indictment also references the large and angry crowd who had been deceived by the defendant Trump. The indictment states they made knowingly false claims of election fraud to gathered supporters on January 6 and directed them to the Capitol to obstruct the certification proceeding and exert pressure on Pence. Co-conspirator 3 is described as an attorney who the defendant privately said sounded crazy, a likely reference to Sidney Powell, who advised Trump during his last days in the White House. The indicted also references a DOJ official as co-conspirator for who worked on civil matters, which could be referring to former official Jeff Clark, who helped draft a letter urging states to return alternate slates of electors. The fifth co-conspirator, another attorney, devised and attempted to implement a plan to submit fraudulent slates of presidential electors to obstruct the certification proceeding. Co-conspirator 6 is described as a political consultant who helped with the plan to submit fraudulent electors. Trump and co-conspirators exploited the disruption by redoubling efforts to levy false claims of election fraud, it continues. The indictment continues on to say Trump and his co-conspirators knowingly made false claims that there had been outcome-determinative fraud in the elections. It charges them with prolific lies about election fraud, including dozens of specific claims in states. They were false, and Trump knew they were false, it says. It also touts a slew of top officials who told Trump there was not such fraud. Trump's knowingly false statements were integral to his criminal plans to defeat the federal government function, it says. It labels as knowingly false statements letters A through F. That included claiming 10,000 dead voters in Georgia and an allegedly suspicious vote dump in Detroit. After November 13, when Trump's lawyers admitted in court they lost Arizona, they carried out a strategy of knowing deceit. The indictment also quotes from Pence's contemporaneous notes and says Trump falsely told him DOJ was finding major infractions. Trump called Pence on December 25, 2020. Pence called to wish him Merry Christmas, it says, but Trump pressured him about January 6. On New Year's Day, Trump called Pence and berated him for opposing a lawsuit stating he had the authority to reject or return votes to the states. It cites Pence's notes again, saying Trump told him, bottom line, won every state by 100,000s of votes, and even told him, we won every state. As crowds gathered in D.C. on January 5, Trump remarked to advisers that the crowd the following day on January 6 was going to be angry. It also quotes from members of the January 6 crowd who changed Hang Mike Pence, and Where is Pence? Bring him out, and Traitor Pence. It says Trump refused to approve a message directing rioters to leave the Capitol, despite pleadings by his advisers amid the chaos. Pence put out a statement following the indictment, saying it serves as an important reminder that anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be President of the United States. Our country is more important than one man. It also quotes his 3 p.m. phone call with now Speaker Kevin McCarthy, telling him that the crowd at the Capitol was more upset about the election than the minority leader was. And it quotes Trump's infamous 4:17 p.m. tweet on January 6 saying, see, this is what happens when they try to steal an election. And one at 6:01 p.m. stating, these are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. The indictment also quotes last-ditch efforts to lobby senators to exploit the violence and chaos at the Capitol by seeking to delay certification, building on information from the House probe and press reports. It says Trump through aides tried to reach 2 senators. Trump and Giuliani have previously been identified as accidentally phoning Senator Mike Lee, Republican Utah, in an effort to reach Senator Tommy Tuberville, Republican Alabama. It says co-conspirator 1 placed calls to 5 U.S. senators, and that co-conspirator 6 attempted to confirm phone numbers for 6 senators who Trump had directed co-conspirator 1 to call and attempt to enlist in further delaying the certification. Giuliani has previously been identified as trying to leave a voicemail for Tuberville saying the only strategy we can follow is to object to numerous states. It quoted co-conspirator 1 as claiming in a message intended for another senator claiming that illegal immigrants voted in substantial numbers in Arizona and that 65,000 underage people voted in Georgia. It concludes by saying Trump did knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree with co-conspirators, known and unknown to the grand jury, to corruptly obstruct and impede an official proceeding, that is, the certification of the electoral vote. The indictment notes Trump's First Amendment rights even to make false claims, and points to possible Trump defenses at trial. The defendant had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even to claim, falsely, that there had been outcome-determinative fraud during the election and that he had won. But it notes that his legal challenges were unsuccessful and that he also pursued unlawful means. The indictment continues. Trump previewed that he was expecting to be indicted around 5 p.m. in a Truth Social post Tuesday. I hear that deranged Jack Smith, in order to interfere with the presidential election of 2024, will be putting out yet another fake indictment of your favorite president, me, at 5 p.m., Trump wrote on his Truth Social account Tuesday afternoon. Why didn't they do this 2.5 years ago? Why did they wait so long? Because they wanted to put it right in the middle of my campaign. Prosecutorial misconduct. The federal grand jury that was hearing evidence in special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election handed up an indictment under seal shortly after 5 p.m. No name or initial was read indicating the identity of the defendant. The former president added in a follow-up post, also, why are they putting out another fake indictment the day after the crooked Joe Biden scandal, one of the biggest in American history, broke out in the halls of Congress? A nation in decline. He referred to the testimony of Hunter Biden's business partner Devon Archer on Monday, who said that then Vice President Joe sat in on at least 20 business calls with his son and his foreign associates. Republicans are considering launching an impeachment inquiry for the president based on Archer's revelations and accounts from whistleblowers. Why didn't they bring this ridiculous case 2.5 years ago? They wanted it right in the middle of my campaign, that's why. Special counsel Jack Smith was appointed last year to lead the federal probe. In June, he brought charges in the documents case while continuing to present January 6 evidence to a grand jury sitting in Washington, D.C. Trump has always denied wrongdoing. But he revealed a few weeks ago that he had received a letter from the Justice Department indicating that he was a target of its January 6 investigation. Such letters are generally an indication that the target will face charges. Deranged Jack Smith, the prosecutor with Joe Biden's DOJ, sent a letter stating that I am a target of the January 6 grand jury investigation and giving me a very short 4 days to report to the grand jury, which almost always means an arrest and an indictment, he posted on his Truth Social site. Once again, the former president managed to blow up the news cycle and his 2024 rivals' plans by revealing the latest legal twist himself. He added in all caps, "This witch hunt is all about election interference and a complete and total political weaponization of law enforcement." Smith, whose most recent role was prosecuting war crimes, has cast a wide net over Trump's efforts to stay in power. That includes examining lawyers who pushed to reverse results, proposals to seize voting machines, fundraising for the January 6 protest, as well as a plan to use a slate of fake electors in states won by Joe Biden to upend the certification process. They interviewed Trump's vice president, Mike Pence, who was pressured to reject the 2020 result, advisor Rudy Giuliani, and local election officials. So far, none of the charges appear to have undermined Trump's dominant position in the Republican Party. He remains the clear frontrunner to secure its 2024 nomination and has used the indictment to raise money and foment anger among his supporters. Several rivals even leapt to his defense, part of an elaborate dance as they look to woo voters tired of Trump's drama while at the same time trying not to alienate his supporters. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said Trump should have done more to halt violence on January 6, but said that did not amount to criminal activity. "Let me be perfectly clear, I did nothing wrong. I am completely innocent," said one. "This is just another vicious act of election interference on behalf of the deep state to try and stop the silent majority from having a voice in your own country. It is a part of a familiar playbook that has helped Trump raise millions of dollars off each set of charges. And more legal challenges could follow." Prosecutors in Georgia are also investigating Trump and his allies over allegations of election interference in the state.